Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fifth session of More of You and Less of Me. So excited to see so many of you back. And so tonight we're going to be talking about practical aspects of the ketogenic diet, how to implement it, how to stick with it. Also with intermittent fasting, or you could apply it also to extended fasting if you'd like. All right, so one of the challenges whenever we start something new is sticking with it and staying on the wagon, as people like to say. And so I want to share some things along with my personal experience of how I've tried to kind of stay on track, and I think that'll be helpful for you. I also have some things I'm going to show and share with you about things that will help you what I call carb leaking, okay? So we all have a little bit of challenges with carb leaking. So because carbs are our enemy in the sense when you're on the ketogenic diet. So I want to share some of those ideas with you also. All right, so starting out, when we start out, we all remember the time when, whatever the situation was when you started, either it was a doctor visit or it was a death in the family like it was for me, where something motivated you and you had some spark of something that pushed you into making a change in either researching the ketogenic diet or saying, you know what, I just got to make a change in my health because I don't like the direction I'm going. So knowing what your reason is, okay, and capturing that is an important thing to do. Jeff last week was talking about that a little bit, and I believe Rachel Gregory has some talks about that, about knowing your why, okay? So it's very important to capture that. And so remembering what moved you, what got you here, you know, what was it that started you on this journey? Because a lot of times when we go through the process of trying to implement this, we get distracted and we forget about what it was that really moved us to start this journey. So writing it down is an important thing to do. Capturing that moment and what it was that motivated you. Memorialize it. And what I mean by that is, you know, even if you've already started your journey, is to write a paragraph, maybe in your journal or someplace like that. You don't have to put it up on the wall or anything, but sit down and write down your thoughts, how you felt. And usually it's an emotional thing because you thought, you know, like for me, I saw the suffering that my father went through with colon cancer. And then I remembered, you know, my grandfather also died of colon cancer. And I said, you know what, I don't want to repeat that. I don't want to have go through that same pain and suffering. So I want to make a change. So writing that down and memorializing it is a very important thing that you want to review periodically. So your reasons are not necessarily goals, for example. They're really more high-level directions. The difference between a goal and a reason is that your reason is not very measurable necessarily. So like if you want to be around to see your grandkids grow up, there's a lot of factors there that you don't control, like when your kids are going to get married, when they're going to have kids, things like that. So it's not like a date where you can say, I know, you know, that I'm going to have grandkids at this date, unless you're really close to that. But usually it's a little bit further out there. So it's not easy to measure that. So that's where the importance of goals come in, because goals, like we see on this stair step, is they are measurable. So our goals are more of a short-term things that we set out to do that lead us toward our reason or our why, okay? So for me, for example, with running, and I just talked I've just been talking to other people about doing running and accomplishing races, is picking a short-term goal would be like running your first 5K. For me, it was running my first 5K. And then after I did that, I do another one, and then I do a 10K, which is twice the distance. And eventually I kept going further and further. So setting shorter term goals that are rewarding to you, that lead you still towards your overall reason, is something that will help keep you on track. And they are rewarding. So when you cross the finish line, you get a little medal that goes around your neck. You can hang it up in your house. For me, that was a motivational thing. You get a T-shirt that you can wear around, and people say, "Oh, wow, you did that race. That was great." But whatever your goal is, like for example, maybe you want to move your A1C down from 8.5 to, you want to be in the sixes. You want to hit 6.9. Maybe that's something that's a shorter term goal that you can work at in your ketogenic diet. It's setting something that's measurable and something that's leading you toward your overall reason. So just like this picture here, you're using goal after goal to step you up toward your reaching your overall reason. Okay, so establishing a foundation. So carrots. Carrots go along with goals, and carrots are the reward at the end of a goal, and that is a motivating factor for us. I'm not saying that we're kind of like a donkey, but donkeys, in this picture here, you see the one with the carrot out there. The donkey keeps going because he wants to get the carrot, and he knows how it tastes, and he can smell it. It's right in front of him, and he can see it. So if the donkey keeps going and he never experiences the carrot, the driver never gives it to him, eventually the donkey is going to ignore the carrot. So that has an effect that's counterproductive. So when the driver's at the end of wherever he's going to give the donkey the carrot. So the donkey is always reminded that the carrot is real, the carrot tastes good, and I'm going to keep doing this because I know I'm going to get a carrot. So at the end of your goal, like I just had mentioned, the medal around your neck, or maybe it is that one of your goals is a high school reunion where you want to look your best, and maybe, I don't know women's sizes very well here, but let's say you're size 20 and you want to go to a size 14, for example. That's a goal where you can set. And what's the carrot? The carrot is wearing that size 14 dress at the end of your goal. That is that reward, and that is something that you can see, and that's something that you can experience. Writing things down. So like I mentioned, writing down your reason is something that you would keep in your journal or something you would review from time to time. But writing down your goals are things that you want to put up like on your mirror in the bathroom or in your bedroom. You want to put it on the fridge. You want to put it at work, wherever you work. Something that's going to be in front of you on a daily basis to remind you of what your current goal is. Running that race, or pulling the A1C down, or maybe you're going on an anniversary getaway, like I talked about in the third night, and you want to be at a certain weight level before you go on your anniversary getaway, because a lot of times, what happens on those anniversary getaways, you gain a few pounds. But since you're ketogenic, you kind of know how to work around that now, but still, you want to have a goal. And so it can be a one-liner. You can put, a picture of Hawaii on there if that's where you're going. Put a picture of your dress on there if it's a high school, reunion type of thing, or something about your race, something that reminds you of what your goal is. But you want to keep that in front of you on a daily basis. And then there's a really powerful part of goals that I call the power of a buy-in. And that's investing in your goal to make sure that you reach it. For example, if you are going from you're size 20, you want to be in that size 14 dress, the way that you invest in it is go buy that dress now, okay? Hang it up in your closet or hang it up on the wall where you see it all the time when you're getting ready. And that you've already invested your money into your goal and you have committed yourself to making that goal happen. For me, it was signing up for races and purchasing the entry fees, to make sure that I have already put out $100 or whatever it was for signing up for this race. So I've committed myself to doing it. So now I got to get out there and I got to exercise, and I have to make sure I am making the most of the money I put in there, or I'm gonna lose it if I don't do the race. So the power of buy-in is a very powerful motivator with your goals to help you toward your reason or your why. So preparing. So here's a picture of kind of a little toddler going through the fridge there. Maybe some of you have already done this, but for any of you who haven't done it yet, you want to remove the DSDs that I talked about on the third night, your distractions, stresses, and diversions. If you're distracted with certain foods that you don't want to have in your house, it's going to cause you to fall off your ketogenic wagon. Then you need to you got to clean the house. You got to clean out the fridge and go through the pantry. Also, another helpful thing is to have a grocery list. This is maybe common sense, but having a grocery list of ketogenic foods that you're very familiar with and that you know that when you go to the store, hey, I'm always going to get these things. Because the thing that you want to make sure that you have is you want to have a staple amount of ketogenic foods available, and you also want to be familiar with meal plans and recipes. So the worst thing is, one thing that will derail you is you've had a long, stressful day at work, you get home, the kids have had pizza, and they still have pizza there, and you're like, oh, I forgot to stop at the store, I haven't made that meal plan yet, and I really wanted to make that tonight, but I'm really tired and stressed out, and I'm just going to grab that pizza. So if you have a plan and you have it organized out, it's going to help you stay on track. Also, drinking more water, and maybe this is a common sense one also, but it's just one of the things that has really helped me, is whenever I have the feeling of hunger, I drink water. And that really helps curb your appetite. It's good for you, it's a cleansing agent, and it's something that's very beneficial for you. Also have like a water bottle at home or at work. I have one at home and work, and I just keep filling it up and keep drinking it. And take it with you when you're commuting or whatever. Just keep the water with you because it's very healthy for you, and it curbs your appetite. And of course, reduce the amount of processed food in your diet. We all are aware of that. So health tracking. I think this is a very practical section here. That these are some of the tips that I have used personally in my journey toward health. So be friends with your scale, okay? Your scale's not out to get you. Your scale isn't biased. As long as it starts at 0 before you get on it, it's not biased. Okay, so check that out before you get on the scale. But your scale doesn't lie. Even though you maybe think it is, it's not lying. And track your weight. It's helpful to see, your progress over time. There's also some body mass index types of scales they've come down in price now, where you stand on them and they'll calculate what your fat percentage is and some other statistics which are kind of helpful in gauging your overall health. So be friends with your scale. Okay. When I click it, it doesn't always go, and then it clicks too many times. But anyway, so the food macro tracker, this is a very important item to have. MyFitnessPal does that. I know I've talked to a number of you that use MyFitnessPal. I use something called My Keto. It's Android and iPhone, and it's all geared toward the keto approach. It does calculations for you based on your activity level, It will do custom percentages, or you can use the standard 75, 20, and 5 percentages for your macros. But what you want is you want something that's going to keep track of your daily goal, your meal goals, and then be able to look at individual foods and see their macros. Now, a lot of the other ones I looked at, they said free on the outside, and after you download them and you start using them, all of the helpful things are all grayed out. And that is the pro version, which costs you, $6 to $9 a month to subscribe to it, and ends up being, spending, $50 to $100 or $60 to $100 a year. This particular one, I'm not connected with it in any way, but I believe it's $3.99, and once you buy it, then you have it, and it's all unlocked. $3.99. So anyway, this one was geared specifically toward keto. You can scan, barcodes on food if you're eating it, and you can also put in the grams and your portion size and things like that. So that also leads to the next thing, getting to know your nutrition labels very well. And, learning the portion size is very important, because if you're at the store and you look at something, you see, it's only 4 grams in there. Well, look at the size. And it says, okay, well, in this can or whatever you're looking at, it's 4, but there's 8 servings. And most people probably going to eat everything in the can, so that's 32 carbs rather than just 4. So make sure that you're familiar with your labels, your nutrition labels. And also, there's a great website called verywell.com. And for those of you who like to cook a lot, I like to cook. I like to do a lot of Italian cooking, but it's not so keto friendly. But what you can do, though, is you take your recipes and you type it into it, or if you have it somewhere else, written down somewhere, you can cut and paste it into this app, and it will analyze your homemade recipes. So, like, for example, my wife loves to make homemade pizza. And so I take her recipe, I put it in there, and I put 8 serving sizes, or 8 servings, and it'll, basically divide it out into 8 pieces. And then I know exactly how many carbs are in each piece. And if I'm working on my keto for that day, and I see I only have 15 carbs left or something like that, and I know that there's 30 carbs in one slice of pizza, which is kind of typical, then maybe I am only going to eat half of a slice, and that fits in my budget. So Verywell is a very helpful, verywell.com is a very helpful tool for those of you who like to cook some of your family recipes and things like that. And also the advantage of that is it doesn't mean that you can't have a piece of lasagna. You can, as long as it fits in your budget, you can go out and figure out, okay, well, it's a pretty small piece, but I can have a piece if you want a piece. So it will figure out it'll actually create a nutrition label for you, which is very, very helpful. Get a digital scale. You can get them now for under $20. Very helpful thing to weigh your food, to know how much you're eating. Grab, like if you're going to eat some nuts, I get a bowl, I put on there, and there's a button called Tare, which levels it out. And then I get a handful of nuts, I stick it in there, and I see how many grams it is, and then I go over and I look at the container, and I see, what it is per grams. Then I go over to my tracker, and I go and I enter that in before I eat it, and I see, oh, okay, well, my handful was a little bit bigger than what I really need, okay, because I'm going to go over budget. I take some nuts out of the bowl, put it back in the thing. Okay, I'm doing good now. I'm right on track. So I record it in my tracker. I take the bowl off, and I go sit down and I eat them. So that is a carb leaking thing that can happen to people. A lot of times people will eat something, and they'll say, oh, you know what? I forgot to put that in my tracker. Oh, you know what? I think I ate about 10 ounces of that or 5 ounces or whatever, and that's not really accurate. We all think we ate less than what we really do when we're snacking, right? So That is one way to really make sure that you're staying on track, is have a rule, a personal boundary, that's what I call them, personal boundaries, is I am only going to eat something if I've weighed it first and I have put it into my tracker to know how much I have left to eat. That way, I'm never going to go over. So, as long as you follow that. The challenge is when you're eating out. It's a little bit more challenging figuring out the carbs in what you're eating. But anyway, I'm sure we'll have more discussion about that tonight. Ketone testing, that's something that I kind of do to kind of keep track of how I'm doing. Does it look like I'm in ketosis? Am I still hanging around there? I know Rachel Gregory, I talked to her about that. There's two different types. There's the urine stick test that you can do, and then there's the blood, the finger prick test, which is the most accurate. The urine test strips are mostly used for type 1 diabetics who try to look for ketones if they're going into ketoacidosis. My wife's type 1 diabetic, so I'm very familiar with that. But ketones with a type 1 is not the same as ketones with everyone else that's not a type 1 diabetic. But the disadvantage of testing ketones with the urine strips is, well, the advantage is that you don't have to prick your finger, but the disadvantage is that when you start out, you may have a little bit more in your urine, but as your body starts using the ketones more, you'll see less that's being passed through. So it's not always a really good indicator of where you are if you're in ketosis. So really, the finger prick test is probably the best way to go. Okay, and this one here is something that comes out of my experience with running, and something I really highly recommend for any of you who are getting back in shape and you are interested in doing exercise. This is a heart rate monitor. It's you can get them now for as low as under $20, and you get a heart rate monitor, you get a little watch, and you can check your heart rate levels. So one of the important things to know is what your maximum heart rate is. Everyone has a maximum heart rate. It's based on your gender, it's based on your age, and you should always know this number before you start exercising. You should also see your doctor. But I have used that many times. When I first started exercising, I was much overweight, and my wife was very concerned about me overdoing it, and I to be honest with you, I was too. So I got a heart rate monitor. I calculated what my maximum heart rate is. There's actually 5 zones that you can calculate. Out on websites, they're all over the place. You just put in your age, your gender, and I think a few other things, and it'll say this is what your maximum heart rate should be. So when you get to the phase when you want to start exercising, you should really have one of these, because when you're out there jogging, or you're on a treadmill, or you're on the elliptical or whatever, and people often say, I feel like I'm going to die, that kind of thing. You don't want that to be a reality. So looking at your heart rate, you can see, oh, my maximum rate is 175, for example, and I'm at 160 right now. So I have, I got 15. I got a margin there of 15. So you know what? It's really just my, what I ate for dinner last night, or whatever that's holding me back from exercising more, or I'm just not in really good shape. But if you look at your heart rate and it's at 173 or 174, then you can say, oh, you know what? I need to back off. I need to take a break for a little bit and rest and get my heart rate down. So you don't want to be one of those statistics or one of these people that start out exercising too early. And, I used to live by Cowles Mountain, and I'd see helicopters over there all the time picking people up who passed out on the trail. So you don't get a heart rate monitor. It's like $20. It's not really very expensive. And it will give you confidence when you exercise, so you know where you are in your range, and you also know when you need to take it easy. So that is a practical tip I think could save your life. All right, so staying on track, and that's kind of what we've been talking about. Have an accountability partner, someone that you can get alongside of and share what you're doing, how you're doing with this. Obviously spouses are the best ones to do that with you. But if your spouse is not a keto believer, you can reach out and find someone else in the community. The keto community is definitely a growing community now, and look for someone that can be a partner with you, and you can talk about what you're going through and how you, the struggles you're going through. Of course, I mentioned this before on the third night, but reflecting and journaling. Reflecting and journaling is very helpful because of the carb leaking, okay? So when you've had an incident like, let's say, last week you were watching the Super Bowl and you kind of fell off your keto wagon, go back and look at, okay, what did I do? Why did I do that? Well, the chips were there and the nacho cheese was there, and I just kept eating it because they were in front of me. Well, think about how you're going to improve that. How do I stop myself from doing that? Maybe you make a rule that, like I said, you weigh it first, you put it in your tracker, and okay, I can eat chips just like anyone else can, but I have to control the amount that I'm going to eat. Weigh it first. Maybe have a bowl that is your bowl for snacking, and you only eat things out of this bowl, but in order to get it in the bowl, you have to weigh it first, something like that. Those types of things. Maybe dealing with your boss bringing in donuts, for at lunch or at a treat or something. How did I do? I kind of fell off the wagon with this. Well, next time maybe I will do this, or maybe I will bring something along with me, or maybe I'll just have a quarter of the donut or something and share with a friend or something. I don't know, but it's that reflecting part that helps you really think about your challenges that you had, and then you go back and you look at it and you say, okay, maybe I need to have a personal boundary around this, and that will help you stay on track. Personal boundaries, and I've been kind of talking about that throughout. But some people have personal boundaries about not eating any type of carbonated beverages, or any type of sugar substitutes, different things like that. So those are really personal things. Everyone is different. We all have different fingerprints. We all have different personalities. We all have different motivating things, and we all have different backgrounds. So your boundaries are going to be unique to yourself. So on a regular basis, review your reason or your why. Review your current goals, of course, review those, and your boundaries, so that you always remember, this is why I'm doing this. These are the things that are going to keep me on track. And always be thinking about your goals going forward. What goal can I pick that's going to help me toward my long-term reason or my long-term why? And then real quick, momentum, we experience that on riding bikes, riding a bike. You start out, sometimes it takes a little bit to start out. It feels like it takes more energy to get moving. But once you get moving, it feels like it requires less energy to keep going. And that's one of Newton's laws of physics. And it's about the same way when we try something new, like the ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, or extended fasting. It's something new, and it takes time to run up that hill. So running a hill is the way that I think about it with running, because it's something I like to do, is a lot of times you have to push forward a little bit more, but you don't want to give up because you're almost to the point of cresting that hill. And if you give up, you're going to slide back down the hill. You want to keep on going. Just keep on going a little bit further, and you're going to crest that hill. And then as you crest that hill and things become more easier for you, it requires less energy to keep it up because you've already established that initial force that's pushing you forward. So using temporary patterns to break long-term habits, that is really what we're about in adopting the ketogenic diet. We've had a lifestyle and habits of eating high carb, high fat, all the bad things. And so we are starting out on a new adventure, a new journey. And there is some science about the 21 day and the 90 days for starting anything new. Many people believe that going over 21 days of following something helps you establish a habit. And I know that Jeff last week talked about that. I think Rachel Gregory has a 21-day challenge. But 21 days is not just arbitrarily chosen. It has something to do with the way that we work psychologically. So if we keep up with that and we keep going, that's going to help us to establish new patterns in our lives. 90 days is where people typically think that you can establish a new lifestyle. If you follow something for 90 days, past that, you're more apt to be able to adopt a permanent lifestyle. Okay, so I'm showing you this just to say, keep working on that hill. It's going to get easier, and it's going to start tapering out, and things are going to become easier as you approach the 21 days and as you approach the 90 days. Running the hill, I kind of got ahead of myself there. But keeping on track, keeping your change going. Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. And I think that's really the reason why all of you are here, is because you've decided that you wanted to make a change in your current health and in your current direction with eating. Your desire to change must be greater than your desire to stay the same. And so that's really what we want to do. We want to stay on track, and we want to make sure that we keep going. Oh. Okay. So anyway, okay. So you can do it. Just keep on track, and I hope that the things I share tonight are things that I learned from trying to keep myself on track. And if you think from the perspective of carrying around a thing of water that has leaks in it, and the leaks are the carbs. And so if you want to make sure that you're staying on track and that scale is going to be more of your friend because it's heading in the right direction, look for where there are leaks. And that's really helpful when you look at journaling or reflecting, looking back at, game day yesterday and I didn't do too well. Well, how can I make that better next time? And it's just that continual improvement process and reevaluating. So that's that on my tips and some of the things that I've used in my life. And I just wanted to mention on the third night, I talked about spiritual fasting. And we realized that there's two different tracks of people here. There's some people that are really interested in the diet perspective, and there's some of you that from the church that may be interested in the fasting aspects. So I'm going to be starting another class that is a spiritually focused class on fasting, and it's going to be called Practicing Hunger, and it's going to be starting in March. So if any of you are interested in that, there'll be more information in the bulletin coming ahead at church, and it'll probably be on the church website. So anyway, I just want to give you a heads up about that. And so thank you all. And now we're going to start our open panel discussion, and we are interested in hearing what your comments and your